Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of Pickle Juice. It's your boy, Zook, and I'm super excited to be joined by all you guys for another fantastic episode. You guys all know who we've had on so far. We've had Alex Newman, the Wizard. We've had Elise Jones, the Queen of Pickleball. But I am super duper excited to introduce to you our third guest, a man who right now doesn't have a nickname tied down to. We may get into that conversation later, but someone that I'm happy to call a friend of mine, Tyler Loong. Tyler, how are you, brother?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on. Super excited to be here.
You're the third episode, but you're the person that I've been talking to the longest, and why I appreciate you is you were the first person to ever get back to me when we came
I
up with this idea. So I appreciate it. You kind of gave me that confidence to go through with it. So I'm very, very excited to finally get the chance to sit down with you.
No worries. Thanks for reaching out. I think most of us pro players and a lot of us athletes, a lot of us will actually respond to a lot of DMs that we get, and so there's a lot of people who are nervous or they don't think that some people will get back, and some people don't because they're extremely busy. But I try to get back to a lot of people who reach out to me.
The general theme has been that you were the first, but not the only. It's like you said, you guys are so down to earth and don't have these egos and are happy to just talk about a game that's growing so much. But before we get into pickleball specifically in your journey, I just want to get into the journey I kind of had going through your Instagram story today. First, you were looking at some sports cars, then you were mowing some grass, and then did I see that you we're trying to get people to give you some ideas for contract workers or construction workers. What's what's going on today in the day of a life of a professional pickleball player that's leading you through that track?
Yeah, so today has been a little bit busier than normal. This is not my normal week or normal day, but yeah, there was an event last night. It was called Cars and Coin. I'm here in Utah. I'm based in Utah, and so it was an event in Utah where they talk about crypto and kind of investments and stuff like that. And then on the outside, they have a bunch of super high-end sport cars, hypercars, everything like that. And I'm a big fan of nice cars. I like to look at them and talk about them and ride in them. And so I wanted to go to it. And this was my first time. They've been doing it for maybe 5 or 6 times. And so this was my first event. And so I enjoyed it. I went with one of my buddies. And so, yeah, I was down there for that last night. And then this morning, I tried to mow the lawn once a week. And so I had to do that, get it done, and which I'm extremely happy I did because it was pouring rain today. So I'm glad we got that taken care of. And then, yeah, I'm hoping to build a home in the next 1 to 2 years. We just purchased some property, and so looking to build a home on that in the next 1 or 2 years.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Are you like a deep car guy? Are you one of those like nerdy ones that could go through like magazines and point out different things? Because the only thing I know is I just went from a Jeep to a Hyundai, and I went from a 6 cylinder to a 4 cylinder. But besides that, you lose me.
Yeah, I'm probably more similar to that. I just like cars. The true car fanatics, they put me to shame. But I just kind of like talking about the specs and the designs. And I'm a big fan of technology, and so I'm really interested in the EV space coming up. And so I'm a big fan of Tesla, Rivian, and all these other EV car companies that are coming onto the scene.
So you're a forward-thinking guy. I hear you words like electronic vehicles, crypto. Are you just getting exposed to those things, or those worlds and environments that, over the past 3 or 4 or little bit of time you've found exposure to?
Yeah, so I don't profess to be a professional in these types of fields or anything like that, but I've been exposed to these types of fields for the past 4 to 5 years or so, and so I'm very interested in the space. I like talking about it, and so yeah, I dabble around, I guess you can say.
Do you have any NFTs?
NFTs, I don't. I'm really interested in that, but crypto, I have a little bit of.
Let me I'm not the guy to do it, but just so you know, this show that we're streaming on is on the Knights of Degen channel. The Knights of Degen is an NFT community.
Uh
Um, so behind the scenes after this, I can give you some I could have some people give you some deep education where we won't just shill this project. We'll kind of give you the whole rundown of NFTs, and maybe if
Yeah.
you're lucky, like Jig is saying, we could even give you your potential first NFT, and you could become a Knights of Degen, because this is a sick community that's just dying for more pickleball.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and somebody needs to do it in the pickleball space, do some pickleball coins or NFTs or something like that. That'd be really cool.
It has that vibe, right, where they're both kind of becoming so mainstream at the same time. I don't want to
Yeah.
call them this because it has a bad connotation, but kind of those COVID activities that during the last 3 or 4 years really found like that boom that I could see pickleball and the NFT in the crypto space kind of
Yeah.
crossing over. So I we'll have an education session one time offline, and we'll get you hooked up with a night, and we'll get you a deep, 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 deep course into this space, because it is ultimately what the Knights of Degen are. So we'll hook you up. But that was a
Awesome.
little bit about, a more random week, like you said, a one-off week. You have more general weeks now that you're a pickleball professional, and we'll get into that. But
Sure.
t- take me even before that. Who is Tyler Loong? And the thing that I like to ask, although quite generic, it really interests me, is how does somebody such as yourself become a professional pickleball player?
Yeah, so I'm 30 now. Depending on if I have facial hair or not, I might look that old or a bit younger. But yeah, I grew up here in Utah. I did a lot of tennis growing up. I played all the junior national tournaments, intermountain tournaments, and then I actually played at BYU for a little bit. They're a Division I school, and then while I was at BYU, I switched over to pickleball, and my tennis background just really helped me get into the pickleball scene. I was introduced by a neighbor of mine who was at the time he's a senior player and was one of the top in the game, and he still plays to this day, just not many tournaments. And he knew that I loved pickleball, and so he invited me. And from that very first day, I was hooked. It was so much fun, and we played for a lot of hours each and every single day for a while. And I think that's really what kind of got my foundation and kind of my level floor of consistency and skill set was just being able to play so much in the beginning. Not to be boastful or anything, but I feel like now that I have that foundation, I don't have to go out there and drill as much as I once did because I put in so much time in the beginning of my career with pickleball.
Hooked is such a powerful word, and it's the one word that you almost hear everyone use when they talk about pickleball. To you though, coming from kind of tennis, even though you were hooked on pickleball, how long did it take you to completely kind of shed one to go to the other?
Yeah, so I was in a pretty unique situation with tennis, but yeah, I kind of made the jump full on right when
That's
I was
interesting.
exposed to pickleball. Talking to most people, and as you said, most people get hooked, most people catch the bug. I really, there's very, very, very few people who I personally know that once they start playing, they go to something else. Almost everybody gets hooked right away, and it's so much fun being able to be a part of their journey and have that community around you. I mean, most of my friends nowadays are through the pickleball community, or at least people I know, and so it's really cool to be a part of it.
I've reconnected with some friends also, finding, the activity of pickleball being something that we share. And now some people that I really wasn't seeing so often, seeing a lot more.
Yeah, for
What
sure.
what what do you think is what do you think it is about this sport though? You say hooked, you say everyone you've talked to, nobody doesn't have fun with it. When we think about the game specifically, no one plays it obviously more than a professional such as yourself and understands it as much. what what is that specific thing about it that is latching on to everyone basically at this point?
I mean, that's a great question, and I'm sure there's multiple answers. But I think for me and a lot of people I know, it's something fun. They enjoy doing it, and not only is it something that's fun, but there's multiple benefits from it. You can get exercise, a cardio workout from it. You can socialize. You can network. I was talking with one of my friends the other day, and honestly, pickleball has been the best networking tool for me in terms of meeting sponsors, meeting people, meeting friends, introducing other people to other people. And so it's just all around. There's so many benefits from it. You get to be outside, get moving, and there's just so many benefits from playing pickleball.
What if I told you I had the answer? What if
All
I
right,
told you
tell me.
I had the exact answer, and it's using an example, but when I say it, I think you'll get it, and I'm becoming a broken record because I'm saying it every episode, but it hits home. My mom, bless her heart, 57, 58, not active at all, has bad legs, bad knees, not in good shape at all. If you handed her a basketball with a hoop and gave her 10 tries to make a layup, she would probably airball all 10 of them and
Yep.
could never play a game and could never make one. But
Yep.
if I had her stand right behind the kitchen and just lobbed her up the ball and she got used to it a few times, she can consistently, and I know because she does it when I play with her, hit it over the net.
Yep.
Can she play the most competitive game? No. But can I put her in a spot in the court if I put a partner with? She can play a game that starts and finishes unlike any other sport. Yeah. And I think
Yep.
the fact that that sport has that, and as much as everyone says it is for everyone, it really legitimately is for everyone, is what's creating this flu slash pickleball fever that when I go to the public courts now, the wait time is insane. But I think it is that, Tyler. I think it's that, it's not just blowing smoke when we say it's for anyone. It is for anyone.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many benefits, and like you said, the learning curve, the entry curve is so easy. I mean, I play Division 1 tennis, and for me to go out there and play with anybody, it's not fun unless they're at my level. And in pickleball, it's different. I can play with anybody. I can play with an 80-year-old lady or a 10-year-old kid. It doesn't matter. I can go out there and have fun. And like you said, it's super easy for them to at least pick up the basics. And then as you progress, there's so many different levels and layers to strategy and technique and just different styles that you can really dive into.
Are you BYU sports fans still, like diehard?
No, not die hard. I mean, I follow them. I live fairly close to them. I'm 20 minutes away. And so, I mean, I always root for the home teams, but there's a lot of people who are die hards, but I wouldn't consider myself a die hard.
The only reason I ask is I'm not a Jets fan, but my fiance's diehard. Jigga Man in the back is a Jets fan. So Zach Wilson,
Oh,
is
yeah.
the talk of my town and on sports talk radio. But yeah, but I guess you're good enough fans that when I say the name, you obviously know
Yeah,
Zach
oh, yeah. There's
Wilson.
been memes for days on him, so it's been pretty funny to see.
So that that's a good story. Basically, it's one that I think is quite common in terms of the tennis or some sort of athletic sport where you come from an athletic background, someone introduces you pickleball, like you said, right away, you were pretty good at it. Anything you succeed at right away, you're obviously going to have an inclination to continue with it.
Sure.
We see the growth of this sport. We see how fast that it is getting players. We see how many people are turning professional in 10 to 15 years from right now. If we look at the top players on tour and we look at those leaderboards, is the way that those players got there the same as they got in through another sport and got into pickleball later? Or in 10 to 15 years, is this going to be at a place where you have to legitimately train for it as if you were going professional in any other sport?
That's a good question. I haven't thought about that too much, but I think you might see like a hybrid, a mixture. There's going to be a lot more kids who are starting to play from a young age. I mean, where I'm at in Utah, there's indoor clubs where they have dedicated pickleball courts and they have youth programs, and those youth programs are already filled with 20 to 50 kids that are coming there routinely, weekly, that are practicing, and they're starting to travel around to different tournaments. And so, yeah, I think you'll start seeing a lot more of those people. But obviously, the people who play tennis, I think they don't have necessarily an advantage, but the strokes are fairly similar. And so if they do ever make the decision to jump over and play pickleball, then they kind of have a little bit of a head start compared to maybe basketball players or volleyball players or something like that. But yeah, I mean, 10 to 15 years, you'll see a lot more people who have just grown up playing pickleball. I think you're already seeing that a little bit with some of these younger kids. I think Wyatt Stone, Hayden
Yeah.
Pasternak, they don't really have too much of a sports background that I'm aware of. I'm almost positive Wyatt's never done tennis, and they've been doing pickleball since 12 years old or something like that, and they're great players.
We get to the year 2022 now, and that's the year that we keep talking about now, with the pickleball growth being crazy. Obviously, the year we're in as well, so that makes sense because it continues to grow. We talked about how you got here. The calendar turns. You obviously been a pro for a while, but the circuit starts picking up. What is kind of the generic day in the life of someone who's touring the country, going to different events, and handling what everyone sees as a hobby now as a professional?
Yeah, so pickleball is so unique in so many different aspects. So I don't know if there's necessarily a generic day per se, just because there's so many tournaments. When I first started playing, which for most people is a long, long, long time ago, like you knew what tournaments you were going to, you knew the prize money, you knew who would be there, you knew when they were, everything like that. And nowadays with the tournament calendar, a, there's already so many tournaments, and then B, they continue to add more and more tournaments, even though there's already a lot of tournaments. And so I might be preparing for a tournament, and then all of a sudden there's a new event that gets added, the Selkirk Showdown or Tuesday Night Pickleball. For example, I didn't even know, I just got invited to another one-off event, one of these things, and so it's really difficult to kind of plan for. I do my best to plan and kind of have a daily routine per se, but it's kind of difficult to plan for all these different things.
Do you like that or do you hate that? The
I like it for the
spontaneity of
most
it?
part. I mean, most of the time, the beginnings of the weeks, I'm in town. Towards the end of the weeks, Thursday through Sunday, I might be traveling. But almost always, Monday through Wednesday, I'll be in town. So I can kind of plan accordingly for that. I work out. I like to work out. I try to work out at least 3 days a week where I do some cardio, weightlifting, everything like that. And then depending on my tournament schedule, what tournaments I'm going to, etc., I'll try to get out there on the court. The biggest thing for me is making sure that I'm in shape. As long as I'm in shape, that I've been working out and kind of doing these things, I feel pretty prepared for my tournaments.
Makes sense. Why PPA? I know there's a ton of different leagues and circuits out there now. There's the APP, there's the MLP, there's the PPA. You yourself are a touring pro on the PPA. Could you give me a little about of insight into what was going through your mind when you kind of decided that was the way to go?
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, there's so many different pro tours and different events, and there's still so many more that are coming onto the scene right now. I just kind of saw a new tournament that's coming up in a couple of months that's trying to not poach, but trying to have a lot of us PPA players playing it with a decent amount of prize money. But for me, the initial catch was the fewer tournaments. I don't like to be traveling every other weekend. I think that kind of burns a lot of people out. The whole routine, traveling, going to the airport, renting a car, hotel. I don't enjoy that life necessarily when it's every single week. And so when I first signed with them, they had kind of fewer tournaments, like 15 to maybe 20, but then that kind of changed to upwards of 20. And so that was my number one reason. The number two was kind of the prize money and then the tournament locations. The tournament locations that PPA has are truly world class. They're beautiful. They're in really nice areas, which is great to be participating in them. But when you have to travel there and pay for the food and the hotels and everything like that, it's not always the funnest. But yeah, those were the two main things. And then also the PPA, they started here in Utah. And so I'm friends with them. I knew them from before. Most of them are pretty good guys. And so I just kind of had that connection. And a lot of the tournaments are on the West Coast. For me, it just made sense.
I've noticed, like yourself and like you just said, the PPA obviously is in Utah, and I've seen a few people that have either been in PPA tour events or signed with the PPA also are in Utah as well. Are most of those people like yourself that were there prior, or are these people that are moving to what is kind of becoming sort of a hub of pickleball?
I think most of these people are already here in Utah.
Okay.
I would say the hottest bed, most trendy bed right now is Austin, Texas. There's a lot of people who've been moving over there, or Florida. But Utah is great. They have really good quality of play. I'm biased, but I honestly think Utah has the best pickleball in the world in terms of different skill sets and the quality of players at each level. There's so many pickleball courts, dedicated pickleball courts around here. Any city that's putting in parks are now putting in 4 to 8 pickleball courts in addition, which is really nice. And so I'm biased, but I like Utah. There's other great areas. California is really good with terms of quality of play as well. You kind of have these different hot pockets in the country where there's really good pickleball.
Does your family get to come with you to these things, or do you tend to do most of the traveling solo?
Mostly solo. It's just pretty difficult. I got 2 kids and getting plane tickets. Normally I fly in, fly out. I don't stay around too much for those tournaments. But yeah, it's just a little bit more difficult. If I make a vacation out of it, then I'll do it. But normally it's just pretty in and out.
What is, what type of family support? And obviously, you don't have to get too personal. I'm not trying to be like Dr. Phil here, but you're doing all this traveling for something that's kind of taking off, and I think we all know where pickleball is going, but it's fair to say you are taking a little bit of a leap of faith that this is gonna eventually get to where we all think it's gonna get. When you made that initial plunge, and you don't even have to talk specifically about your nuclear family and right now, but what was the general sense of people around you, like when you started telling people, like, yeah, I'm gonna go for this YOLO?
Yeah, so I feel like I almost lucked out a little bit because my first job, if you can call it that, was I was actually a sales rep for Onyx Pickleball, and so I was involved in the scene, but they paid for me to travel to these tournaments, and so truth be told, it wasn't necessarily that big of a risk for me because they were paying for my amenities to get to these tournaments and everything like that because I was working. I was meeting with these clients of mine. I was working when I was there. And so I feel like I kind of got lucky in that sense. And when I got picked up, I was still in college, so I didn't have to work too much. And so I kind of have a pretty sweet gig. I kind of just got lucky, I guess you can call it.
Yeah, I guess that does make kind of the jump in where if anyone's asking, you're like, yeah, well, it's paid for and I can win. So at the end of the day,
Exactly.
at the minimum, I'm getting a paid vacation where I get to play what I love, and at the maximum, I can come home with some
Yeah.
dough to take care of everyone. So that's kind of a tough argument
Yeah.
from anyone close to you.
Yeah.
Um, the last thing I want to do with you is I want to go down some of your tournament performances. But before we do that, because I always want to give people a chance to do this, because I'm new into the scene as well, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can. I'll bring the screen up to share them, but talk to me a little bit about that name on your hat, Vulcan, and kind of what that brand and the sponsor that they are for you.
Yeah, so I've been with Vulcan, so they're a paddle manufacturer. I've been with them almost since they launched about 3 years ago. Yeah, they're great. They have some really innovative products. I use the Vulcan V730 Max. I used to use the V550, which was very similar, just the materials are a little bit different and the technology behind the paddle is a little bit different. Yeah, they're great. They're based in Arkansas. Kind of random, but they're an awesome group of people. They have 4 dedicated outdoor courts, which they play on all the time. And so, yeah, I like their products. I use their products, and they're extremely supportive. And so, my experience with them has been really good.
Let's talk generally for a second. Not talking pro Vulcan, not talking against Vulcan, talking pretending that no one is ever going to listen to this. As someone, like I told you behind the scenes, I'm not in any tournaments. I'm playing for fun. I'm
Yeah.
not even rated yet. Truthfully, because I don't know. This is not me asking leading one way or the other. How much do you have to take paddle choice and equipment choice into consideration? One, if you could break it down into 2 sections: one, when you're just jumping into the game, and two, if you're going from being that beginner and getting hooked to that next level. Like, is there a difference between these accessories you use?
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely a difference. I mean, everyone will say give somebody a wooden paddle and try to have them beat you. And so, biggest thing is for somebody, whoever is playing, for them to feel comfortable using that product. I always recommend, doesn't matter who you are, unbiasedly, I always say, hey, you should demo this paddle because I want it to feel good. I want you to like it. For some people, one paddle might feel better than another. And so I always try to have a couple of different Vulcan paddles when I'm demoing them out or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, I think paddles do make a difference. There's some that have more power. For singles, that might be a benefit. And then for doubles, you might need a little bit more control. One big indicator of this is a couple tournaments ago, or fairly recently at the beginning of this year, there was, I'm not going to say which paddle, but almost everybody can guess it, but there's a new paddle that kind of came onto the scene, and all these players were using it, and they were having these tremendous victories and successes. And I mean, it was the paddle.
Yeah.
The paddle really made a difference there.
Yeah, I myself, not to shill or not to advertise anything, um, Vulcan does a fantastic job in the chats
Oh yeah.
of the events where I bought
Yeah.
the V710 Max
Awesome.
in the chat.
You should have used my code for it. Save yourself some money.
You gotta have that. You gotta tell the PPA to have your code up when you're playing. All you guys should have your codes up. So all of us that
Right.
are sitting in the chats, because I said that straight up to Vulcan. I'm at that point, and that's why I kind of asked selfishly.
Yeah.
I'm at that point where I was playing with a Z5, like the Onyx Z5, like
Yeah.
basically like the, if anyone says like what's the beginner, a lot of people say the Onyx Z5. And I was sitting
Yeah.
in the chat that day asking people what's the next step where I want to take it to the next level. And legitimately, the Vulcan customer service person, whoever's running the account, was in that chat and was answering all my questions, not shilling Vulcan at all, just like
Yeah.
answering questions generically about, asking me what I was looking for and stuff like that. And literally, because of that experience, nothing else, didn't test it like you said I should, but just because of that type of experience that I had in the chat, I went to grab this Vulcan 710. It was just a few days ago, so I haven't
Awesome.
gotten it yet, but I'm excited because my fiance is now getting in full time, and she's gonna take my Onyx Z5, and
Nice.
I'm gonna get the Vulcan. So
Yeah.
she's really really excited to have a quote unquote paddle of her own. But
Cool.
yeah, I'm now using a Vulcan paddle as well. I'm hoping that it can add, 2 or 3 or 4 points to my game because
Sure.
right now I'm struggling a bit. But no, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about this. I love learning about the companies. It's, we all, in all the other sports, we know the Nikes, the Under Armours, the Adidas, and we're all aware of where we want to go. These are now those companies in this sport. So I'm sure we'll more and
Yeah.
more be hearing
Yeah,
names
and
such
I
as
mean, the
Vulcan.
cool thing with Vulcan is they're a relatively small group, and so they're able to implement and make changes fairly quickly. They have some new paddles that are coming out. I think it's the 900 series, I believe, but what they have coming down in the future, in the near future, is really awesome. It's going to be a top paddle, I think, and so it's just fun to be with a group that's extremely innovative and can make these changes really quickly.
Are you good friends with the other Vulcan pros?
Yeah. I mean, like I said,
That's
we're a
cool.
pretty small team. So I'm good friends with Alex and Jay and Daniel Martina, all these people. I actually used to play with Alex Hamner a couple of
Hmm.
years ago, which was really incredible because she plays senior women's now, and we were playing in the Open Pro, and we were having some incredible results. I think we got third or fourth at the U.S. Open, and we've beaten some really impressive teams. And so for her to do what she did and what she does is really awesome.
Alex is fantastic. I give you credit for me learning about her because I actually learned about her from
Yeah,
your YouTube
you should
page.
have her on the show. She's a
I would
hoot.
I would love
She's
to. I
funny.
heard she was on you. Learned about her from you. Having
Yeah,
her on your show where you
yeah,
were asking her questions. So she
yeah,
was fantastic, and it's fun because now that I know, now I honestly didn't know this, and now that I see you guys and have that camaraderie, it makes sense why that episode was pretty fun in the way that you
yeah.
guys handled that. I said we would get to your performances this year. I'll let you quote unquote steer the ship a bit so we don't highlight any performance that you don't want us to cover, but let's talk about the turn of the year. We get into late January, February, March. Between the Carvana, the Foot Solutions, the Aurora, or the Riverland, is there any to highlight?
No, I mean, I kind of start, well, I mean, I've kind of gone up and down with tournaments. I think I started off the year with a third place in Foot Solutions, I believe. I played with AJ Kohler, and we did extremely well. We got third place, and let's see, mixed doubles was not good.
Yeah.
Men's doubles, yeah, we got third place there. That was a good tournament. That was my first time ever playing with AJ, so that was fun. We had an incredibly well. It's funny because if you look, we played De La Rosa and Ben Newell twice in this tournament. And the first time we beat them fairly easily, and then in the second time we played them, we had been sitting for a little bit, and they had just come off of a match, and so they were a little bit warm, whatever. But they were up pretty much the entire game until the very end, and we were able to get that. And we got that win, and then that put us into bronze, and then we beat Tyson and Jay to get bronze. So
yeah, that's a good performance. Would you hang your hat more on doubles or singles?
I get this question asked a lot, and I always tell people historically I've probably had more success in singles, but I got injured about 3 years ago, and I kind of took honestly about 2 years off of singles, and I would say I'm finally getting back to it about this year. I was too scared to play singles, and then when I did, I kept getting injured, like these small injuries, and so I just wouldn't want to risk it because I didn't want to get it taken on doubles. Doubles, I've been having a lot of fun recently. When you find that partner that you really gel with and that you have success with, doubles is so much fun. And truth be told, that's the main focus of pickleball right now, is doubles. Singles is fun, but the emphasis is not really on singles quite yet.
It's a flip, right, from tennis where singles is kind of that thing, and now it's almost how do you enjoy? We'll get to that, Jigga. We'll get to that. But it's funny, because there is that flippening, and one of the things that I kind of like put it towards is the fact that, one, because it is such a public game and it is happening at like these parks, very rarely do you see singles happening because you need to let people get on and you need to let people join. So, obviously if it's doubles, you get twice the amount of people playing, more and more people get in, it's a more flowing motion. And then it goes to obviously whatever people are playing, they're more going to want to watch. So if more people in real life recreationally are playing doubles, I think that kind of just lends itself to people want to watch what they play. So I understand that. And with the growth, do you think the game becomes more niche where when you go to a tournament, you only have to play men's pro doubles, or maybe mixed doubles is your forte and you go to mixed doubles? Or is pickleball gonna stick with this? You go to a place one weekend and one day is one thing, one day is another, and then the third is a final thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know the answer. I could definitely see it being that way where people are really focusing on one or maybe two events where they kind of specialize. You've already seen it recently where there's a lot of these single players that are coming into the scene that were really high level tennis players, and they're really just focusing on singles. And they do well in singles, but their doubles game is not quite up to par to their singles game. And so whether it's they can't find a partner or they just really want to focus on one event, you're already starting to see that a little bit with a couple players.
Yeah, the two things that I think that will definitely make that trend go faster is, one, the growth and the entry of new players. Obviously, more players are going to be better at certain things. Other people will stick to what they're good at. And two, is the other side of it, is the prize money. Right now, people are doing some math in their head and they're probably just good enough at each thing where it's, hey, let me play each. I have a fighting chance to get some of the money or whatever the payout is for the prizes, where if an individual event maybe paid as much as a whole weekend, you would then practice just that, learn with your partner just that. You wouldn't be focused on anything other than that.
Yeah, definitely. I fully agree. Yeah.
Let's get more recent. So we talk. What are you happiest about over the
Oh
summer?
man,
Let's
I wish
say
they
since
had the
May.
most recent one, the TOC, which was last week. You could probably just go to that tournament itself
I
and
think I
look
can
at the
get that.
results.
Yeah, past tournaments.
Let's see. Yeah, that one was fun. I mean, I always enjoy playing in my home state of Utah. I'm already used to there. It is. I'm already used to the weather and the environment, and so I enjoy it.
Do you sleep at home for this?
No, so it's kind of far from, well, it's about an hour and 20 minutes, so it's just far enough where I don't want to be going back and forth, so I just get a hotel for the tournament.
You want me to take you to the pro doubles?
Sure. Yeah, that was my best event.
So pro doubles.
Yeah, so we came in as the number 5 seed.
Do you guys pay attention to seeds a lot? Like when this gets like, were you and Callan sitting there like, oh my god, like I can't believe these people were higher than us, or do you guys sense that these are more general?
Is getting a lot more important as tournaments go on. I feel like maybe a year or two ago, people wouldn't really care. But now that the PPA, especially, they don't really do a full backdrop, full constellation. So seeding really does make a big difference on whether who you play in the semis, the quarters, or whatever it is. Points are really important now. And so people really do care about the seeding and the ranking and stuff like that. In the beginning, the seedings, and still a little bit now, they're a little bit wonky, but they are getting more straightened out the more tournaments and the more accurate tournaments are. You'll get seeded more accordingly. Yeah, it's a little bit tough because you also have a couple people playing in different tours and whatnot, and so they don't necessarily rack up all the points in one tour, where one tour will only seed off of their rankings, and so it gets a little bit complicated. But yeah, I mean, we came in as the 5 seed, which I was hoping maybe the 3 or 4 seed, but 5 was fine.
I was just gonna ask you about that. Were you happy that you beat this 4 seed? Because I can assume that if you're saying you're 3 or 4, this is potentially one of those that you were like, hey, we should have been seeded higher. Then did this one feel good?
Yeah. I mean, it felt great. I mean, AJ and Thomas, they're great players, and we. I've never played them with Callan, but we had we felt pretty comfortable going into the match, and yeah, I mean, it was a great match. It was kind of a weird match because we got off to a great start. We beat them fairly quickly and easily the first game, 11-3, as we see. And then the second game was crazy. This one wasn't streamed. I wish it was, because we had some insane points. And then the second game, we kind of got off to a good start, and then they came back, and then we actually had match point in the second game.
What was the score? How many match points did you have?
In that match, we honestly probably had 5 or 6 match points.
Wow.
One in the second game, and then the rest in the third game.
Wow.
But yeah, we were having a tough time closing it out. But they're a good team. I mean, AJ is one of the most talented players out there, and Thomas is very dangerous as well. And they've been playing together this whole year, and so they have good chemistry. And so, yeah, it was a good win. I was really happy about it. And then we went on to our next one. We got slaughtered there. And then we went to the back draw. Let's see.
Down here.
And our first match in the back draw was, yeah, that one was really close. That one was insane too.
Wow. 18-16.
You'll have to ask Callan. I got mad at him, but you'll have to ask him how many match points we had on that.
It's so funny because you're describing that, and as a professional, but I know exactly what I'm thinking about with my partner, when we have that discrepancy, and you don't wanna obviously blame your partner, but there's just sometimes on that one day where you're just like, come on, man, you're just hitting every single ball into the net, do something. But 18-16 is phenomenal.
I will say we had eight match points there. Yeah.
Oh my! What was the first one when you guys got to 15?
It was probably 14-12 or something like that.
Okay.
They never had match points. They always brought it back to even, but they never had match points themselves. But what was frustrating is my partner, Callan, who I love.
We're going to make sure to clip this and tag him a million times.
Yeah, we're playing the rest of this year, so I like to give him a hard time. But he had a couple balls that were right on his paddle that he just missed, and had he made those, we would have won the match. And I think I had 1 or 2 that I could have ended the match on too. But when you have literally 8 opportunities, that's not fun.
You're smiling about it now, but that's one of those, if you end up losing that one, it goes home with you and you think about for quite some time. So thankfully you were able to take the 8.
But DJ and Dylan, I mean, they're a good team as well. They don't play as many.
Dylan's fantastic.
But I mean, they're both super talented DJs. I mean, when he's focused and on, he's maybe one of the best players out there. And Dylan is just really steady. So they're a good team, and so that was a good win for us as well.
Yeah, 15-9. And what'd you think? Everyone was kind of talking about the big news afterwards when they were interviewing Riley and Matt, and they asked them about, what kind of got them going, and they talked about Mr. Johns and him pointing the one finger. Is that kind of stuff that you like being introduced into the professional game?
I mean, I think it's good for the sport. Personally, I don't love it. I probably would have been mad in the game. But I think it's entertaining for the sport. The fans, they like it. Everybody loves drama. Yeah, I think it's as bad as it is to say this. I think it's good for the sport to have this rivalry and kind of drama go on in between these matches. So for the next time they compete, I think it's going to be extremely publicized, and it's going to be a lot of eyeballs will watch that match.
But it's safe to say we'll probably never see Tyler Loong in one of those rivalries anytime soon.
You never know. I mean, I've played with Ben a couple times, and we've done extremely well. We played the Tuesday night thing, and granted, it was a different format, but he plays the left side, I play the right side, and I mean, Ben's a great player. He's the best right now, and so everybody thinks that just because you play with Ben, you're going to win, but you also have to do your part. I mean, if they hit to you and you miss, then you're not going to do well. But what me and Ben do well together is we both Ernie. And so we're taking away that sideline, that corner from our opponents, and then we're forcing them to hit the middle. And if they're hitting the middle, we know it's going there, and we both have good forehands that we can kind of attack on.
And Ernie, for anyone in the chat or anyone that ends up recording and ends up listening or watching the recording, if you don't know, as everyone knows, that you can't touch the kitchen, so you kind of jump to the side and land out of bounds. And when I was introing Tyler, I said we didn't have a nickname tied down yet. I think we're going to go with one that he already has a little bit, and that's the Ernie King. Because if you get a chance to watch Tyler in any of the upcoming tournaments, you'll see he's absolutely majestic with this shot. He's a lefty, and anything. I'm a lefty in basketball, so maybe that's why. But anything lefties do, I think, looks prettier, either a basketball shot or a baseball swing. So the lefty Ernies look quite beautiful. But how did Ernies even start becoming your thing?
That's a great question. I learned about the shot, and I was like, wow, this is actually fairly easy to execute if you know what you're looking for. And also because I'm left-handed, it's the complete opposite of a right-handed person. And so there's a lot of people who accidentally hit to that side thinking it's going to be to their backhand, but it's my forehand. And so I think being lefty is just a huge advantage in that sense, that it gives me that shot. And a lot of people, I can't tell you how many times somebody will pop it up on accident and say, oh my gosh, I forgot he was lefty, or thinking it was going to the other side, and it was too late by then.
I feel that because when I play pickup basketball, people will always defend my right hand for the first possession, and then they'll quickly realize. But still, like you're saying, even if you prepare for it, just when those natural instincts take over, there's definitely multiple times throughout games where even if the teammates have talked about it and they've practiced it, like he's a lefty, their just natural inclination is to put it where a more common righty would play. Exactly. And you have that ability to really take advantage of that.
And like you said, they can strategize before, but in the heat of the moment, when those natural instincts come into play, they just forget, or it goes to the opposite side. And so I think that's a huge plus. And a lot of people, they don't even think about doing that. And so it's been the shot that I really like. I will say that, I mean, people know that I love to hit it, and so they really keep it away from that spot. And so it's a lot harder for me to get that shot as much nowadays, just because people know that I like to do it so much.
Bringing up the PPA Tour schedule real quick, because before I let you go, I just want to go through where can we watch you? This is the PPA Tour schedule. Are you just hitting them all one by one?
Yep. So I'm scheduled to play. I'm scheduled to play in every single tournament this year, PPA tournament. So I'm heading out to Ohio in 1 or 2 weeks, and then right after that, I'm going to Georgia. And then there's a small little break, and then Vegas will be a really big one. They call that their Grand Slam, which is a really cool when it's at the Darling Tennis Center. I actually used to, I grew up playing tennis there, and so that was kind of weird to be back after having been away for 15 years or so. And then we have the DC Open, which I've never been to DC, so I'm excited for that. And then we have another 2 to 3 tournaments to close out the year. And so, yeah, anybody who's looking at or wanting to find my schedule or the PPA schedule, I just go off the PPA's website, and that's where all the PPA players will be, is going off that website.
And how about you? Instagram, Twitter, your YouTube channel, is that the main places to check you out? And again, they're all under his first and last name. So if you look for Tyler Loong, either on YouTube or on Twitter or on Instagram, that's just his handle there
Yep.
on most of them. So go check it out. With this episode, when we share the clips throughout the week, obviously we'll put his handle on there. So go
Yeah.
follow him. But is that the main three places?
Yep,
where we can
exactly. And
contact
like I
you?
said in the beginning, I actually try to respond to most people who message me on Instagram. Sometimes I'm a little bit slower, but yeah, Instagram is my preferred method of contact. Yeah, I'll do YouTube. I kind of go up and down with YouTube. I'll post a lot and then I won't. But yeah, Instagram I check pretty frequently.
Yeah, like that series when you were going to like the interesting pickleball courts and
Yeah,
like talking with
yeah,
them, because I'm so used to, like, I'm just playing at the classic town
yeah,
pickleball court with like 10 next to each other in like a big court setting, and to see the ones that you were seeing, it's like that's the stuff where it's like, okay, when you have people buying that much into this sport,
yeah.
it's gonna get where we all think it's gonna get
And the
because these people
crazy
are
thing
already
is,
there.
I mean, all those homes that I toured are here in Utah, and there's so many more that I could be touring or that I just haven't had the time to. And it's fun to see, and it's just wild to see the success and the popularity that it has grown to be.
No, it's a lot of fun. Anyone watching this that wants to get more of Tyler, watch that series. It's fun. If you enjoy pickleball and you just want to see some cool courts, you really will. And the interesting, dynamic people that run or own those courts. The one thing I ask you before you go is, how about you got to promise me before the year ends, the next tournament that you and Callan get on the podium for, I get to talk to you guys that week to break down the tournament run with you guys.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm sure Callan will be down too. Yeah, we'll do that.
Beautiful. I appreciate that. So check him out on all socials. Check him out on YouTube. I'm going to give him behind the scenes on another date, a rundown on NFTs, crypto, the Knights of Degen. You may see Mr. Loong with his first NFT sometime soon. But I started off by saying this, Tyler, you were the first person to get back to me. So even though, as you said, the people are great and you get back to everyone, and a lot of people ultimately get back to everyone, I really appreciate the fact that you did get back to me, because it was like, oh shit, this little idea that I had in my mind, I actually got to follow through with and do it, and everything I've wanted to do with it, I've now been able to. So the fact that you did that with me and do that with other people, I can understand why you're a fan favorite. So I look forward to getting the chance to talk with you again soon, my friend.
Thanks, man. We really appreciate the call, and it was fun talking with you.
Thank you, brother. I'll talk to you again soon.
All right, see you guys.